what I wanted to talk to you is the theme is the evolving role of library director. So I'm going to share my experiences in coming to San Antonio and how my role has evolved in the last 12 years that I've been with the San Antonio Public Library. And it has changed, and I suspect that this change from really administrators and providing management oversight for a library system applies to many other library directors because it has changed. Initially, when I arrived in San Antonio, very much like Siobhan, I encountered some major challenges. And so the focus was basically the organization, providing management side, oversight for the day-to-day operations of the library system. But that has changed as part of the perception and profile of the library system in San Antonio has changed. And one of the goals that working with the library board of trustees and staff, one of the goals that we identified is to raise the library's profile in the community, and especially in the eyes of decision makers, because at that time, the San Antonio Public Library, or the library system, was not viewed as part of addressing some of the community-wide goals and strategies and challenges. So that was one of our goals. So I'm happy to say that we have accomplished that. So back to the evolving role of library directors. So I've gone from providing day-to-day management oversight and administration to being more of a promoter, being recognized now as a thought leader, being invited to the table to address issues that are impacting the community and to be part of the problem solving. Community strategist, again, working with other entities within the community, an advocate, a connector and a collaborator, and also a negotiator, because as the San Antonio Public Library continues to work to impact the community and work with other entities as well as other city departments to advance some of the citywide goals, and I'll address those in a few minutes. There are certain skills that are needed, not only collaborating but also negotiating, because often in developing partners you have to develop an agreement of who's doing what are the responsibilities, and you need to delineate those roles and responsibilities. So negotiating is also a key skill set that has become very important as our roles have evolved throughout the years. So what are some of the drivers that are impacting the necessity for library directors to transition more from administrators to being organizers and collaborators and connectors? In our case, citywide goals have been identified and have been consistent in terms of what are the overall goals of the community to build a greater community. One is to increase the literacy rate. One is to prepare our children to be able to read by the time they're in third grade level. Workforce development is another issue. You might have heard that San Antonio turned down the opportunity to bid for Amazon headquarters. There were some that made the case that San Antonio would not be able to compete because our literacy rates are not very high and our educational attainment rates are not very high compared to cities that we would be competing with. So those are some of the goals that the city is tackling, and the San Antonio Public Library is viewed as a vehicle to help advance some of those goals. And all of you, those that work in public libraries, understand the role of public libraries as it pertains to advancing education, advancing literacy, workforce development. But a new concept from our perspective is that was introduced this past year as part of the city's budgeting process, and the San Antonio Public Library is a city department funded by the city of San Antonio, was this notion of an equity lens, of looking at distribution of resources and services from an equity lens. The library became even more prominent in that equation and was viewed as playing a significant role in advancing this notion of providing more services, not on an equitable basis, but providing the tools for the community to actually access those resources And we're talking about communities that need these kind of resources and services the most. So as a result, now the library is being called upon to be venues for meetings for task forces that are addressing things like affordable housing, that are addressing things like high school dropouts, teenage pregnancy, those kind of things. So libraries are becoming more, are being viewed as places for the community where these kind of discussions can be held. And having a large footprint with 28 branches throughout the city of San Antonio, we're basically available in almost every neighborhood. So again, libraries are being viewed more as part of that solution to advancing those citywide goals. Civic engagement is also another emphasis that's being placed as part of this creating a greater city. So libraries are being viewed as a place for civic engagement. In fact, most of our libraries, branch libraries, serve as not only voter, well, all of our library locations serve as voter registration sites, but most of our branch libraries serve as also sites for early voting and regular voting. We've done this, we volunteered to do this and, because we feel that because libraries are important as part of that civic engagement responsibility, and also it provides an opportunity, as you know, for non-users to come into a library environment and get to discover what the library has to offer. The other issue that is very big in San Antonio is this whole idea of digital inclusion. I continue to refer to it as digital divide, but I'm getting with the program now. My staff continue to remind me, no, Ramiro, it's no longer the digital divide. It's not the haves and have-nots. That gap has closed significantly for many, but it's having access not only to high-speed internet, but also to the tools, whether it be mobile devices or computers and so on. But it goes beyond that. It's not only having access to it, but being able to utilize that resource. If you don't have the digital literacy skills to be able to really take advantage of those resources, then having access to high-speed internet or free Wi-Fi, it's not going to help you. So I've learned that it's now digital inclusion, and that's what digital inclusion is all about. So the San Antonio Public Library is heavily involved in this digital inclusion goal. And we're doing that, so I'm going to go back to partnerships, by developing partnerships with a number of entities within the community. So in the last 5 years, we have multiplied the number of partnerships that we have with various entities. For example, in the area of early literacy, we volunteer with a organization called SA Reads, who annually does a book collection campaign. It actually started by now Congressman Joaquin Castro. Before he became congressman, he was a state representative, and he started a book drive. He partnered with the San Antonio Public Library. Then it grew, it became too large. Then this entity, SA Reads, came on board and took it over, and now they created a book bank, and it's a huge initiative, and the goal is to not only promote literacy, but to try to provide a free book to every family in the community. And so all of these initiatives or entities that we partner with, we're careful to make sure that we're aligned in terms of the mission, that there's some alignment to what the San Antonio Public Library's mission is in the community. And so all of those entities are aligned in some way with the goals of and the mission of the San Antonio Public Library. Workforce development in terms of partnership and negotiating skills. At the Central Library, we carved some significant space to create what's called Launch SA, which is a space that provides opportunities for entrepreneurs and small businesses to access resources and also training to allow those individuals that may be interested in starting a small business or an entrepreneur to be able to have the tools and resources to be successful in that. And so part of the arrangement of providing this significant space within the central library or the main library was negotiating an agreement that not only met the needs of the entity, but also preserved the operational mission of the central library. And so again, it's important to understand that the role of library directors have evolved. I recall early on in my tenure at San Antonio, I spent most of my time focusing internally on issues pertaining to staffing and recruitment and strategic planning, and that continues to be important. But what I've found myself in this situation is that I'm doing less of that. I'm delegating that aspect of being a library director because the demand for my time is now being requested out in the city, to be out in the community, to be building partnerships, collaborating with other entities, to be talking strategy with appropriate entities, to be engaged with other city departments where we share common goals. So it has evolved, and it has changed significantly from my many years in being a library director of an urban library system.